Hey everybody, how you doing? Quick vlog, a thinking about something that should be talked about more, and that is what accomplishments Barbara Lee has had that can apply to her being mayor of Oakland. I put that out there now because I saw at least one person ask that in an exchange on Nextdoor. Now, the counter model to all of this is, hello, by the way, I'm glad you're watching. The counter model to this is, well, when we were in a situation where we needed a savior as mayor, if you will, and that after Jerry Brown finished his second term and a group of prominent African-American community leaders, including Paul Cobb and Gene Hazard, really pressed for Ron Dellums to be the next mayor, to run for next mayor. Hey, Ed, how you doing? And they, to that end, to that objective, gained 6,000 signatures and convinced Ron to run. And he did, okay? And so, Brandon says, no more women mayors, please. Anyway, there is something to that, but I digress. I will state, however, that there have been great female mayors that actually ran cities as they're supposed to be ran. And unfortunately, we haven't had them in the Oakland. Well, Libby, I thought, came closest to being there. But, okay, you could list the buts. But she had it in herself to be one of the greatest mayors Oakland had. But she started turning to wrong people for advice. And I don't think she really trusted. No, she didn't really trust her own voice, even to the end. Okay. Now, back to Barbara Lee. Barbara Lee is in much the same position as Ron Dellums, her instructor, her teacher. Okay. I'll get to that in a second. And what I mean by that is how Barbara Lee got to where she is because Ron Dellums picked her to run for his seat rather than the person who was my boss at the time, Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris. And I was there when it happened, and I was there when Elihu got the news. And I was sad. I thought Elihu was going to be the pick. I was actually surprised that was Barbara, but it was. And she went on to do some great things. Like, for example, if it had been Elihu and not Barbara, I don't think there would have been an opposition to a war on Iraq. Because Elihu is, and there's no slam against Elihu, but Elihu is the practitioner of safe politics. And he always has been. So would he have stuck his neck out like that? No, he wouldn't have. But Barbara felt like she was doing something that her constituents would back, and she did it. I'm not saying it's impossible to imagine Elihu saying that. No, it's quite possible, but it's not his norm, okay? But Barbara at the time, you didn't know what you were going to get, but Ron Dellums did. And I say that because I didn't know Barbara well. My mother knew her. My mother's now late husband, Chester Yerger, knew her, and so on. Oakland thing. But my point is that Barbara today finds herself in the position that Ron Dellums was in when which caused him to become mayor of Oakland, basically retiring from Congress. What I'm going to do next, and some believe that Dellums had the idea that the job of mayor of Oakland was going to be easy, like comparatively a vacation to Congress. And it's anything but that. It is a hard work. It has a hard job. And if you don't do it properly, if you don't think through what you do, if you don't have the right people giving you advice, and the right people giving you advice doesn't necessarily mean that you have to like the person, but you have to respect what they say enough to heed their counsel. All right. But if you can't do that, you're not going to function well at all. You might think you will, but you won't. And ultimately, what is written about you will mark your history. So the question I would have for Barbara Lee is, how confident are you in your past and your current and your present accomplishments that you can stand going into a new situation like being mayor, making some mistakes that might give a hit to your reputation, and then coming out of that from there, regardless of how it looks. If it means a lot to her to have a pristine history, a pristine reputation, she should really think about Oakland. She needs to come into Oakland with a plan. And she needs to understand what it takes to achieve the objectives, which I hope she has laid out, which calls for goals to get to those objectives. If she hasn't done that, if she hasn't organized in her mind how that works, she will not succeed. Okay? You cannot do well just by name recognition. Sometimes it's the opposite. And in this day and age, with the way media goes, it can work against you faster, arguably, than if you're doing something great. In other words, oh yeah, we expected that. That's Barbara. Boo, boo, boo. But the other stuff, okay, and then it depends on what the other stuff is. All right. So Barbara's really got to think that through. And then here's the other one. What have you accomplished? Well, I can answer this. Barbara Lee has been responsible directly for 666 pieces of legislation over a time, going from 1998 to 2024. And she has co-sponsored 10,011 pieces of legislation. Yeah, 10,011 pieces of legislation. Now, Barbara will point to the fact that she has co-sponsored every major AIDS piece of AIDS legislation that's ever come out. Great. But can Barbara point to any specific example where she's gotten money for a project in the city of Oakland? Okay. Doesn't need to be a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It'd be better than one, right? Has she co-sponsored any legislation that held the impact of having a dramatic change in something in Oakland? I mean, directly in Oakland from an economic development standpoint. Not so much healthcare, because healthcare is a divided situation where it's federal, state, and local more often than not, unless, of course, you find it, funded a local clinic or something like that, or maybe a spread of them around town, right? Or got money to them to survive in the pandemic or something like that, right? I don't recall getting any kind of email from Barbara Lee's office that would point to an action like that. And I've been on her email list. So and then what is it that you're going to do for us that couldn't be done by somebody else? And her answer would be, well, my connections in Washington, D.C., who I know, and internationally. Okay. And she would have a solid advantage over all of the candidates without question. And then, what about the local issues? Does she have a plan for them? All right. And who's she going to bring on to implement that plan? People want to know. They have a right to know. So I'm saying all of this because there are some people who think, well, she can get elected immediately. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that's fine. But does that mean she's going to succeed? Okay. So we might as well just forecast ahead and talk about what a mayoral scenario looks like with Barbara Lee at the helm in Oakland. I think that's a fair question, which means this isn't the last time I'm going to bring this up, but I do think it needs to be thrown around. Let me answer your questions. Ed, I'm all right, man. What do I think of London? I've always liked London. Um, that I've had the occasion to talk to her a couple of times, and but I've never had anything there. I never got to know her well, and so as to why that is, I can't put a finger on it. I think Mayor Breed strikes me as a very quiet, simple, basic person who just wants to do good. I don't think there's anything wild or extravagant or unusual about her. I think she's quite nice. Um, I think she would be a lot of fun to just get to know as a friend, you know? Um, I think that she's got some effective ideas or has had them. And I think what happened was the whole pandemic just, well, she didn't handle it correctly. I really think it took her off guard because the people she was relying on to develop the economic norms that San Francisco was used to were being harmed by the pandemic. And those are people within the tech community. And a good set of those people left the city. And then I think London allowed the whole drug issue to overtake her message. She didn't draw a hard line on doing drugs because nobody in San Francisco wanted to do a hard line on doing drugs. It seems, well, not nobody, but a significant number for it to go on and become a problem. And I think that really is what damaged her. So I think that's really what damaged her. All right. I'm looking forward to seeing how Daniel Lurie does because I met Daniel when he was bringing the Super Bowl 50 to San Francisco. Had the pleasure of interviewing him, talking with him, both on and off camera, right? I think it's quite exciting to have a process-oriented person at the helm, and Dan is very much that. And plus, guess what? He's going to be mayor of San Francisco when Super Bowl 60 comes to the Bay Area. So, what better person to be the host to represent San Francisco as essentially the host city for the Super Bowl than the guy who actually brought Super Bowl 50 to San Francisco, well, actually Santa Clara, really, in the Bay Area. I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to think more about this, though. I think your questions deserve answers. Wait, Ed, so what do you think of London Breed? What do you guys think of London Breed? Why do you think London Breed lost? I'm asking. And if you're not around, maybe you're watching Monday Night Football like I was, or I'm going to go back to do. But I had it in the mind to get out these thoughts, right, while they were percolating around in here. It's like, I got to get these things out, all right? So I'll leave those questions out there. Hopefully you all come back and see me talking here and say, okay, well, this is what I think, blah, 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 blah. Good, all right. I'll see you all later. Thank you. Going back to watch the game. I'm going to make more vlogs. The next one, here it goes. Barbara Lee for Oakland mayor, says Reg. I got you, Reg. Why? Why do you say Barbara Lee for Oakland mayor? Merry Christmas. And go Bears. Cal big game coming up. But anyway, why do you say, Barbara, I'm asking a question. See, this is what I get. Well, she can get elected. Okay, fine. But you didn't write that. Why do you want Barbara Lee for Oakland mayor? See, I never get an answer. Other than she can get elected. Well, okay. Well, okay. What else is there? I mean, you do realize, and I hope I help you get it here, that just because Barbara Lee is known doesn't mean she's going to win the election. Look what happened to Ron Armstrong. He came in with all this old media, attention. Everyone thought, oh, he's getting all this attention. He's going to be the shoe-in. No. As I said to anybody who wouldn't listen, he doesn't have a ground game. Rich says experience, strength, and wisdom. Okay. I agree. Anyway, we'll come back to that more later. We'll see you.